Now I'm very excited to bring back one of the most experienced and respected handicappers in all of the land. I was going to say all of Las Vegas, but it's gotten a lot bigger since then. Mr. Tony George from DocSports.com. You can follow Tony at T George Sports on X. Tony, March, baby. We've been waiting for March. Here we are. Time flies. How the heck you doing this week?
Well, man, after that introduction, it kind of reminds me of the story of the guy who read the epitaph on his tombstone and thought to himself, either I'm in the wrong hole or somebody's a really good liar. but I'll take it. It is March Madness, and it's madness, and it is upon us, and obviously dialed in. We'd had about a 2-week stretch there heading into this week that we did not do well. We were doing real well, or above water on a very tumultuous season, Kiev, and then we kind of hit the skids, and now this week we've turned it back on. I haven't lost a card since Sunday and got one of our biggest plays of the season today. But that's not the important news here on Thursday. The important news is your Wisconsin Badgers laying 10 tonight. How in the hell are you laying 10 points to Rutgers? I mean, I saw that line. I can't get. Hell, you almost damn near got to lay it just because it doesn't make any sense.
I'm staying the shit away from this one. Rutgers, 43.9 effective field goal. Most of that crap's on the road. If you looked at their effective field goal on the road, it's probably worse. But you can't lay points with a Badger team right now. There's no way in hell I would do that. They're terrible right now. They're lost their confidence. It's a typical Greg Gard type stuff where they run the swing offense like Bo Ryan, but they don't do any defense. They don't know how to. They're constantly out of position when they play defense. There's no big man down there. And when you have a guy like Omayuri, I mean, he should just have a field day against Crowell. A field day against Winter. I don't see how he's not going to. I wish there's a prop bet out there. I bet he gets over 20 points. Which is, according to this line, almost half Rutgers points. So, man, something's wrong with this line. It's just a big bounce back spot. I think Wisconsin can secure themselves in the NCAA tournament by this win. If they lose this and then they're losing to Purdue in a few days on Sunday, let's just not even talk about anything else. They're losing to Purdue. They would probably fall back to the bubble. But no, they'll get this win, I think, and then it would just be a total fade team to me in the NCAA tournament. I'm talking if they play someone like Indiana State or Drexel, if you want to look at Missouri Valley, which is actually playing right now. If they're going to play a Nevada, if they're going to play any of those small conference tournament winners, James Madison or an Appalachian State, I'll be betting them against Wisconsin. They have no confidence. They kind of were. They're that team that the reason they look so good in the beginning is because they were so experienced. They started out as good as they could be when everybody else was still young and figuring it out. And then they didn't improve, of course, because they started at their peak and everybody else improved.
Right. Well, they're predictable now. They're doing the same thing they were when they were peaking. And everybody's kind of figured it out second go around. On top of that, they're not playing any defense whatsoever, which is just shocking for a Wisconsin team. So, just out of character for them. But I was just busting your balls a little bit. You've had plenty to brag about with your Badgers over my Huskers, and
are the Huskers are in? They're in, right?
I think they will be in. I think they should be. They've got some quad one wins that are pretty impressive. I mean, knocking off Purdue, beating Michigan State, going on the road, beating K-State. Just really doing. Really getting there. If Nebraska didn't have to go on the road, they'd be the number one team in the country. But the problem is they got to go on the road.
Yeah, and the problem is that their Wisconsin win isn't looking as good anymore. The Purdue win should get them in, but in Michigan State, I guess. But their non-conference was just easy, except Creighton. But they almost lost by 40 to Creighton. It was 29-39, something like that. I think Nebraska should get in. I don't know where Lunardi has them. I was just pulling that up. I'm guessing that they're a 9 seed. Yeah, 9 seed against
Yeah,
Texas Tech is where he has them right now. Yeah, I
yeah,
think they're in. But the crazy thing is, I don't see any ACC teams that should be in besides Duke and North Carolina and Clemson.
right.
That's it. And then and Lenardi has a couple of those in. I think Seton Hall's a little fraudulent to go in. You got some of those home big wins against like a UConn when they were sleeping early in the season, but
Yeah.
Seton Hall shouldn't go in my opinion. New Mexico, who would they beat? Why are they last four in? Some of
I
this
don't.
stuff makes no sense to me, man.
I think you're going to see Utah State, Nevada get in from the Mountain West. That's going to be about it. I'd be
Well,
surprised.
San Diego State, of course, will be
Well,
in, but
yeah,
yeah,
those three.
yeah, Boise shouldn't get in. They'll get a fourth in, whether it'll be maybe a play-in game situation, like Colorado State will get a play-in game or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to want to bring four in. This will probably be another situation where you're going to want to bet that prop under too. The Mountain West total conference wins. San Diego State blew it for everybody last year because they went
Yeah.
all the way to the final freaking game. Everyone else lost the first week and they go to the final game. I can't remember if I took that bet, but I know it's a popular one for us guys
Yeah.
here in the sports betting world. But hey, it's funny. I always talk about buy low, sell high. I don't know if you have any teams that you kind of want to buy low or sell high, but I have two. I'll take and starting with Wisconsin, sell high. I think it's all the stuff I said about them. They didn't improve. They're very weak down low. Teams figure out how to beat them. They're probably, even though they've lost 7 out of the last 9 games, I still think they're a little bit overrated on KenPom. I think they're probably in the 30s, not in the 20s, like 22 they have. So I'm guessing you might get some value to fade them in the Big Ten tournament and maybe in March Madness as well, unless something changes. They rely on the 3 ball. They don't shoot a ton of them, but they rely on the rebounding in the 3 more than you think because they're not scoring a lot of points. And I have a buy low team in USC, to be honest with you. So when Collier came back, it's a whole different team, and they've covered the last 5 in a row. And I've been on them 3 or 4 of those 5 games. Just they've been kind of my gold ticket, I'm not laying the 8.5 against Arizona State right now. I'm not doing that tonight.
No.
I mean, I look and the number should be 6. The number should be 6 or 7. It is not. I mean, hell, KenPom has it at 5. I'm not doing that. But when they play Arizona at home on Saturday, after Arizona takes care of UCLA tonight, that's probably when I'm going to go for that nice home dog situation here with USC. And I think USC could be a dangerous team in the Pac-12 tournament. So what about you?
Oh, one team I think you want to keep a lookout for come tournament time is going to be Creighton Blue Jays. I think they're a really good basketball team, pretty much who they had last year. Maybe one of the best coaches and the top 5 coach in college basketball. I think they're going to make a lot of noise in the Big East tournament. UConn finally got the monkey off their back, winning one on the road last night against a ranked team. But something they haven't. That's an amazing stat. They hadn't beat a ranked team on the road since 2014. They happened to be the last time they won the national title before last year. But I mean, I think Creighton is a team that's going to be in the Elite 8. I just think they're a well-rounded basketball team, and the other team that you talked about that's high-low is kind of New Mexico. Everybody's real high on New Mexico, and I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't. I think they're the 4th best team in the Mountain West, and that's a flip-flop with Colorado State.
Yeah, Colorado State and Utah State's better than them for sure.
Oh, Utah State's a really good team. Utah State's a sleeper. I'm telling you, watch out for these guys. They can play ball.
I mean, to be honest with you, if I was going to rank that conference, I would probably have it Utah State and San Diego State 1 and 2, and you can pick your A and B right there. I don't know which one would it be, even though they're only 45th on KenPom. I just think or 42nd on KenPom. I just think they're a little bit better. And then I would put Nevada just because of how hot they are at 3. I would put Colorado State at number 4, and then I would probably put New Mexico at number 5.
Yeah, I don't. I'm real interested to see that tournament here in Vegas. I'm real interested to see it.
Boise maybe number 6, but yeah, it's Boise's. God, they lose at home to Nevada on Tuesday, Jesus! But that's going to be a very fun tournament to watch for sure.
Yeah, it is, and I'm gonna go to the West Coast finals there at the Orleans. I go every year. It's always St. Mary's Gonzaga. It's going to be another one of those. I like the way Gonzaga's playing right now. Obviously, to end the season, they, you know, maybe they're most dangerous when there's no spotlight on them.
Right.
You know, they're one of those teams this year, and they don't have any. Now they're a minus 115 favorite to win that tournament. I think St. Mary's like plus 130, which you could probably put money. You could hedge. Well, I'll see what happens, but the way Gonzaga finished out the last couple of weeks of the season, they're getting ready. Mark Few knows how to get them ready for March Madness. He does it every year, but he's just got such a high seed, and maybe this is a year they really do well. I mean,
when expectations are low, it's always been high,
Yeah.
And now that they can be that team like from 2000 and was it 8 or something where they snuck into I think the Final Four, at least the Elite
snuck
Eight,
in the Final Four that year.
Yeah, it was something like that. And then that was the when they had no expectations. So I did see improvement from this team. I noticed it when they played Kentucky. I didn't think Kentucky played too bad. I just thought they played really well. And I was gonna fade them against St. Mary's. And then and I'm thinking to myself, St. Mary's is injured now. I'm not gonna do it. I didn't take the other side, which I wish I did. But either way, I had a good Saturday. Well, how about this? I mean, since this is the last real weekend of college basketball before the big conference tournaments, the Power Fives, the Power Six, whatever you want to say in basketball. What are your thoughts about senior night? How do you handicap that? Is that changed since it's been, lots of movement and transfers and stuff like that? Has that changed, or do you still look at that as a buy-on spot, really?
No, you know what? I don't handicap a whole lot difference. As a matter of fact, especially if it's a star player, playing his last home game, mom and dad are there, giving him a rose and going through all the pomp and circumstances, more of a distraction than anything, especially if they're playing in a big game. You got some big games this weekend, Kansas, Houston, North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Tennessee. You got some big games, even in some of these smaller conferences, mid-majors. You've just, I think it's more of a hindrance than anything. Obviously, last home game, they want to win, and go out in style, kind of like what Kansas did against Kansas State the other night. You see a little bit of that. So a really good team with something to play for senior night, especially with the senior laden team. I may allow them an added point and a half, on the spread, but that's about it. It's not like a full home court advantage type situation for me. And I put a little stock into it, but I also put kind of like as much stock into it as I do kind of a hot trend. I don't key my handicapping around the fact that, thank God they're at home. It's a senior night because, this line is really weak. I think odds makers figure that in a little bit too.
Oh, it's the odds makers and the market's pushing it up a bit. You saw that yesterday. Marquette Marquette had one of their best players injured yesterday. And they're only a 5-point. I almost took UConn. I mean,
I did. I had UConn. I took UConn last night.
I wish I did. I was like, man, I was like, something. This is just off. I was like, could it just be senior night? But there was other ones too. I took Northwestern and went against Michigan State. Now Michigan State was losing most of that game, and then they won at the end by 3-4 points. But that was 9.5 point spread. So senior night really didn't come through for them at all. There's all kinds of games. Now, South Carolina, Tennessee, I'm not even going to talk about that one for the way that finished. I don't know if you saw
that. I put South Carolina out on a lean, and I put the picture on my Twitter feed. This isn't 1985 anymore. This is 2024. Half of your national TV viewing audience has money on the goddamn game.
Absolutely. You're alumni.
And you're advertising DraftKings on commercials. Then you're pulling that shit. Come on, dude. Seriously.
They have no governing board. It's literally. I've complained about this way too long, but I'm just saying it's just disgusting how they have nobody to punish them. Nobody they don't care. And that's the bad thing about it. And that's what makes everything look ugly. It makes people say,
they
oh,
hire,
Vegas came in and Vegas made it so it wouldn't happen. It's like, shut up, first of all.
No. There's a guy out here I know that used to be chief operating officer of Canner Gaming, CG Technologies. They had 7 books there. His name's Matt Holt. And now Matt, and a lot of people know him, he was a VEASAN regular forever. Now he runs a company called US Integrity, and they manage game integrity for various conferences, the NFL, the NBA, the NCAA. He needs to make a phone call and go, hey, and he needs to make a phone call to Adam Silver when it comes to load management and these bullshit injury reports that the NBA throws out. You want to hear the term fake news all the time, watching politics. Well, the NBA injury report is fake news. And you might want to tell the NCAA, and you might want to tell Adam Silver, who, by the way, was the biggest advocate for sports betting for any pro sport of anybody, because he knew it was the only thing that's going to save the beast. You guys might want to get to learn and understand your audience a little better.
Yeah, Matty Holt should be making some.
FanDuel and MGM with Jamie Foxx advertise every other ad are those, and yet the integrity of your sport, with stuff like that is compromised, and it's pissing off your base.
Well, I mean, and this is what's great about sports betting. I'm hoping how loud we are, being that the government ain't going to do nothing about this. Nobody will, because they're their own body. Maybe our loud voices will finally get something going to fix this. And Matty Holt's doing a great job over there. I'm glad that I've been following him on Twitter for a long time, usintegrity.com. So good call on that. But back to senior night. I personally, I still look at it more on a spot basis, but I'll tell you, with all these transfers coming in and out, he might have had 3 senior nights already in his last 3 schools, especially with the COVID rule, right? It's like seriously. I think also it's not quite as motivating for them because of that. It's more of a fan thing, almost, in my opinion.
Right.
Maybe they do something nice for the seniors, but it's nothing new. If they need to get beat, they need to get beat, and the truth is, Minnesota didn't show up on senior night. They're the best covering team last night. They got smoked on senior night. UCF got smoked by Houston. Well, actually, I think they barely covered, but they still got beat. South Carolina, that was an awful basket at the end. It should have counted, but that they're still in the position where it's a playing Plinko right there. Arkansas did cover, but I already mentioned some of the big schools that didn't work. So I would say you look into it a little bit and see how bad this team needs it. Maybe senior night gives them a little bit extra, but it should just be a very small thing. Like if you're looking at a trend, just how many things can you line up in your favor here to make it a play? So I agree with you on that one. It's nothing you should do much differently. Matter of fact, I'd be more with the amount I move it. I'd be quicker to go on the other side, Tony. I mean, just what the market's doing. All right, well, let's get in some games then, man. Huge weekend ahead, and start with Friday. I know we usually don't pick too many games for Friday. I didn't, but I'm looking. San Diego State is going to be probably a 4 or 5 point favorite at home against Boise State. I know Ken Pom and all that says 3, or maybe a little bit more. But man, I don't know how I can bet Boise State after they lost at home to Nevada. I mean, right now Boise State knows that they're out of this tournament, most likely. I don't think the St. Mary's win back in December 1st is aging all that well. Neither is the San Francisco win. They're out. It's like this win is not going to do it for you. What you need to do is make a deep run, if not win your conference tournament. So this almost seems like a flat spot for them. And maybe this San Diego State team that does have 4 seniors, 4 starting seniors, might be a little bit more motivated because they also need this win after a terrible loss at UNLV, Tony. So I'm not saying I'm laying it yet. It's probably going to be, let's face it, it's going to be 5.5, unless you get this thing as soon as it opens on Thursday afternoon, early afternoon.
Yeah.
Probably 5.5, but I would only lean San Diego State.
Yeah, and they're avenging a loss too, a 1 point loss.
Yeah.
They're avenging a 1 point loss, and they got 4 seniors at home. So do the math on that. They might pull out a can of whoop ass on it. I would play the under. I mean, San Diego State's been going under like crazy. I think 8 out of their last 10. Don't quote me, but it's a number. I think the total on that was mid 130s. If you get a mid 130s to the high, maybe 138 or under. If you can get that 136, 137, 138, I'd sniff the under on that too.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely look at the under for sure. That is probably the better probability. Boise State has been kind of all over the board with them, but they didn't beat the closing under. I don't think they went to 142, but most of the that number was 143, 144 in Nevada game on Tuesday most of the day. But the sharper bettors knocked it down and they won because the closing line is probably going to show it over. But the truth is, it was an under. Good stuff. And yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of great games here on Friday. I mean, there's going to be some.
You got the Mo Valley tournament going on.
Yes, but I can't see whose matchups.
Yeah, I know, but that's one you're going to keep an eye on that. Now you saw.
Watch for the tournaments. There's actually a lot of tournaments that are going to be getting going too on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, so you got to get up early and do your homework. But like you said, you and I were talking off the air that Arch Madness there in St. Louis, how these games today were going under. I couldn't believe Murray State was getting absolutely destroyed. A lot of people like them, but at the end of the day, all these teams, and this is a conference. I used to do the Dana Altman show on ESPN 1480 in Lincoln and Omaha when he was coaching at Creighton. I've been a Missouri Valley fan since the 90s. I grew up in Nebraska. I mean, I root for Nebraska in football in the 80s and 90s and Creighton in basketball. And I had the best of both worlds when them and Wichita State were dominating Mo Valley. But at the end of the day, all these teams play in very small arenas, very small gymnasiums. Some of them you even call gymnasiums. I mean, Bradley kind of plays in a barn like an airplane hangar. But the bottom line is they get in that big arena there the first couple of games in St. Louis, and there's so much space behind the backboard, it's hard for them to dial their shots in early till you kind of get to the weekend. So bear that in mind with these totals. When they're getting, high 130s, low 140s in that tournament. I've been bagging this angle every year for many years, Kiev.
There you go. Totals are definitely getting hammered down, and for sure the Missouri Valley has been looking on the under. So we'll be paying attention to that. And I just took under 156 on the next game, even though these are faster paced teams, Valpo and Belmont. I'm kind of hoping that that comes my way. It looks like it's already down to 153.5. And so that's how quickly that thing moved. I took it like 10 minutes before you got on. So that's interesting. But no, we'll be paying attention to these games for sure. As far as talking points, people want to talk about Power 5. So let's go move to Saturday here. And you picked a few big games for Saturday to talk about. Going to be some highly viewed games, some big conferences. Why don't you go ahead and give me the first one you want to talk about?
Well, Kansas, Houston, let's talk about it. I mean, Kansas for the first time, and I can't remember when, is not playing for a regular season title. They've won, 13 or 14 out of the last 16. They've only, I don't quote me, but it's an insane number. And they're kind of down the pecking order right now in the Big 12. And, of course, I'm not putting a lot of now, when they first played back on the 3rd, matter of fact, all 3 of these big marquee games we're going to talk about, the first meeting between them and then Kentucky, Tennessee, and Duke, North Carolina, all happened on the 3rd of February, the first meeting, just ironically, and they're playing all each other again here. But Kansas put on a clinic against Houston. Defensively, they really put on a clinic, and they knew they were just doing back cuts and all kinds of different things that they hadn't done offensively up to that point, really, and they beat them 78-65, and it was worse than that. That was a one-sided game.
I was on Kansas that game.
Yeah, tip to final buzzer, but now you've got the number 1 defense in college basketball at home. As you mentioned, seniors last, senior day, senior night, whatever you want to call it. But so they got a lot going for Houston there. They struggled last night against Central Florida for about the first half of that game before they really got it going. just sheer attrition and talent just wore them out. But I mean, Kansas on the road, the reason they're not dominating the Big 12 conference is they can't win on the road. They've got 2 road wins in Big 12 this year. Okie State, who sucks, they're a bottom feeder, and Oklahoma, who you never know who you're going to get on any given day. They got losses at Baylor by 82-74 just last Saturday. Texas Tech, 79-50. Texas Tech. Kansas State, 75-70. It was an overtime loss. Iowa State, 79-75, respectable loss. Hilton Coliseum for Iowa State may be one of the strongest home courts in the country, and I'm including Fog Allen, I'm including Cameron Indoor. Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa is a snake pit, and they are almost unbeatable in there. Even when they're shitty, they're unbeatable in there, damn near it.
Yeah, they should have lost yesterday to BYU, and they won by 5. They were down by 11.
Yeah, but the home court, West Virginia, and it's inexcusable to go on the road and lose at West Virginia if you're Kansas. Bob Huggins has left the station, ladies and gentlemen. Huggy Bear isn't there, and him and Bill Self are best friends, or really, really good friends. And even when Self had good teams, he kind of take it easy on him. And then they lost at Central Florida by 5 points. You can't trust Kansas on the road. That's why they're not contending. And then you have to ask yourself another question. What's your motivation if you're not going to go out and try and win an outright regular season title in the final game? Do you just want to go down there, go through the motions, get them ready for March Madness, get him ready for the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City? The only way that Kansas is going to get a higher seed, maybe than what they've already handpicked to be, probably will be if they win the Big 12 tournament there at T-Mobile in Kansas City next week. That might bump them up, from a 3 to a 2 or from whatever it's going to be. But at the end of the day, Houston's probably going to be laying 6 to 8 points here.
It's going to be
in
more
my
than that.
opinion.
It's going to be more. I have -10 here.
Yeah.
Is it enough? Is it too many points for you?
If you get it 10 or more, I'd take Kansas. But bear in mind, Kansas always beats the shit out of Kansas State and Lawrence. So I went back to 2018. Every win in Lawrence at Fog Allen in the Sunflower Showdown against K-State was a double-digit win. And they covered. I mean, they just always beat K-State at Fog. Now, K-State kind of has their number at home, always plays them tough. They've got a couple of big upset wins when Kansas was in the top 5. I think K-State had better additions than possibly they do this year. But, going into Bramlage, you're trying to win. There's another Manhattan is a long road trip and just a snake pit to play in as well. But, if this goes over 10, I might lean Kansas if I get 10 or more. But if it's under 10, I think Houston wins it by 8 to 10. If it lands on 10, 11, 10's probably a sharp number, Kev.
I think Houston wins by 12 plus points.
Okay.
Kansas is terrible on the road. Their home road splits are awful. They did what they had to do against Kansas State.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you're right. You kind of said it right there. What's playing their ass off against Houston, who bangs you up down low, going to do for you when this him has no bearing on you? It's senior night for Houston. Houston's got 4 starting seniors.
Yeah.
Jamal Shedd's there, and he's maybe the best player in college basketball. He's one of them. That's for sure. And LJ Cryer's a senior. Damian Dunn's a senior. You got Jawan Roberts. Dude,
I mean, McCullers isn't 100% yet.
But here's the thing. That's my hot take. You just said right there. My hot take is that McCullers sits this game.
He might. Why would you waste him in this game?
He's beaten up, and that's the whole thing. It's like, he's already injured. Why would you play him in a game that you're probably going to get boat raced in when it just has no matter in it? I would lay 10. I would lay up to 12 points. So I think it's probably going to hover between 9 and 10. We'll see. But I think that you picked one of the most watched games of the weekend. I don't know if it's going to be the best game of the weekend because I
Right.
smell a possible blowout here. But let's move on to a game I picked. And we'll go right in the Pac-12, or what's left of the Pac-12 after this basketball season, my friend. Arizona versus USC. I got Ken Palm has 10. It's not going to be 10. It's going to be 6 or 7. Arizona is going to be laying road chalk 6 or 7 points. I'll just say 7 at USC. USC is going to be a home dog, total 156. I mean, it's no secret, though, about Arizona. People know that they're not good on the road. They lost to Oregon State, Washington State. They should have lost to Utah. That was a horrible game at the end. Utah blew it, but there's some just very poor calls in that game going Arizona's way. But USC, for some reason, is just kind of rejuvenated. They're not making the tournament unless they win their tournament. But they've covered the last 5 games. Isaiah Collier, he looks like an 82 regular season game a year. And I think he's going to be a lottery. I don't know about lottery, but maybe close to the lottery when it comes to the NBA draft. That kid is good. And he was recruited as a 5-star recruit athlete, I think. He was up there. I have to look back at it. But I've been watching him and he looks great. And USC, as weird as this team is, they have 4 guys that is 6'10" or bigger. And that's what you need to do. Like some of those fouling type guys, like to hit Ballo and Krivas, the tall Arizona players that are just so good down low. You play them rough, you hack them a bit. One guy goes in foul trouble, you bring on the next. That's what you got to do. And USC is going to be at home, and they do have some advantages. They shoot the ball ranking 67th and 3-point adjusted for strength of schedule, and that's counting games without Collier. And Arizona ranks 80th defending it. So Arizona's a little weak against the 3 on Haslametrics. I think this is one of those where USC kind of puts their foot down and wins a big one at home, or at least covers a big one at home. I'll take the 7 points. If anything more than that, I think is going to be a gift. Arizona bad on the road. I would also take the over 156. I think this could go way over. I like USC plus 7, couple stars in the over for maybe a star and a half at 156.
I'm not as confident in USC as you are in this matchup. And I'll tell you what, Arizona is going to have a lot of motivation in that one if Washington State wins tonight, and they should. I think they might have a little bit of an issue covering 6.5 or 7 points in that Washington game tonight. First go around was an overtime game. Washington should have won it. It's an in-state rivalry. It's the last time they're playing as Pac-12 foes. So there's a lot of emotion and meaning in that game tonight for Washington State. But they're going to be up. They're kind of tied with them. So if Washington State wins tonight, they're going to be motivated to try and secure the regular season title, the last Pac-12 title there's ever going to be. So there's that factor. But one thing I do agree with you on, I like the over. I like the over in that game. I think USC could put up some points, and I know Arizona can. So I got some news for you. If that's 156, 155, something like that, I'm going to take the over.
Well, I mean, I think Ken Palm has it a little bit lower than that. I think I added a point or two to this just because I know that the market's going to be looking over. Ken Palm has 150. Sorry, they have 159 in this game. I was looking for USC. I should have put 159. No, I'd still look over though. I would like it up to 160, 161. But
I think it'll be a high scoring game.
Yeah. So unfortunately, my apologies. I wrote down 156 instead. Should have wrote 159. Yeah, this is a high flying game, and there's actually going to be a couple of them coming on this weekend. But what you said about Washington State really intrigues me. You know why? Well, for one, this is their home senior night, of course, and we've talked enough about that. They've got a couple seniors there. But who made out better? Washington going to the Big Ten or Washington State left in the dust?
I think probably Washington State left in the dust. They they could cherry pick their way into somewhere.
No, they didn't. But they didn't make out better because now Washington's in the Big Ten. Washington State without a conference. These kids are going to play to show them that they're motivated. They're the ones that want to be in. They're the ones that are overlooked. And I kind of saw that a little bit with their football team, at least in the first 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
I
get your angle. Yeah, I get your angle.
Yeah, if you want to get into the psyche of it, and we're not always right about the psyche or motivation, but if I'm Washington State, I put one on Washington here, and they also went and took care of business at Washington earlier in the season. I mean, Severe Wheeler is the only guy I worry about there. They have some big injuries there. One of their centers, has been out for a long time in Washington, so. Yeah, they're just kind of thin, and Washington State should be able to take care of business. And I got to tell you that Miles Rice kid, freshman, he is amazing. He's really good, really good. I expect him to.
I don't like it, and just the way I look at things, and that's why, you sell picks where you sell picks, and I sell picks where I sell picks, and we have more than one guy where both of us sell picks because. People enjoy listening to guys like you and me, and they either jive with our psyche or they don't jive with our psyche. So it's like Baskin Robbins. You don't like my flavor, there's another flavor you might like. But the one thing that worries me, especially at the end of the season, in the scenario that you predicted, all those are positives for Washington State, but let's talk about the negatives. They got a conference title on the line. It's senior night. All those other things that you mentioned, where Washington's got no onus on them to do anything here. They're just avenging an overtime loss at home in a game they should have won. There's no pressure on them. They're not going anywhere, so to speak, in terms of, a lot of people have them as a dark horse in the Pac-12 tournament. I don't, but I think they're a more than capable team. If you don't bring your A game, they'll give you a hell of a ball game. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on Washington State there. They're a game behind Arizona right now. And I
assume Arizona's going to win tonight.
If USC beat Arizona? Would it shock you if USC beat Arizona Saturday?
No, that's why I bet that. That's why I bet it. I think that adds to it. It's like they have a chance to do something here. They're at least going to be, it looks like, a 2 seed in the tournament here. Colorado has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses. So it kind of looks like unless catastrophe happens, they're going to be okay there. This is a situation where everything's going for Washington State, in my opinion. So that's what I'm going to look. What game? You also have another big high flying game that we need to talk about coming up in the SEC, my friend. Which one are you picking?
Tennessee is going to be taking on Kentucky. I have been one of the biggest Rick Barnes faders in big games since he was at Texas. And it's paid off until this year. He just has so much talent at Tennessee. They're just so freaking good in spite of some bonehead coaching decisions from time to time. In spite of that, they still win. They're that good. Now, did they outplay South Carolina? Yeah. Did they cover the number? No. We all got hosed.
No, they didn't. No, Tennessee covered. South Carolina didn't.
Well, but I mean, with that basket, it would have helped, if they'd have counted the basket. But I mean, Tennessee went on the road against a very, very good basketball team. They've done it time and time again this year. I'm not sold on Kentucky. I thought Calipari would get them going. They have good moments. They have bad moments. They play inconsistent. It's hard to imagine that because he's got a couple seniors on that Kentucky team that he usually doesn't have. He's got all his one and dones on there, But at the end of the day, Tennessee, you take a look recently at their schedule. They've beaten kind of the who's who in college basketball. I mean, Texas A&M, okay, the good team. You don't want to go to sleep on them. Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, and they're beating these teams convincingly. I mean, and they're taking on a Kentucky team here. They already beat 103-92. The Vols are on a 6-1 against the spread run. They're probably going to be favored 7 or 8 in this game. And the other thing I'd look at here
the total
is the total. Because the only thing that gives me pause is that with that win last night against South Carolina, they wrapped up the SEC last night. Nobody can catch them. Now, Kentucky is tied at 12-5 with about 4 other teams in conference action. So they got a lot to play for. Tennessee really doesn't in terms of the motivation for the game. But I don't think Kentucky's got enough talent to beat them, especially on the road, in my opinion, Kev.
Well, that's why it's going to be a 9-point spread. Now, the over under Ken Palm has 163. It's not going to be that. It's going to be 166, 167. The last game went to 192 or 195.
195.
I would bet over 163. Yeah. I mean, this is just, if anything lets down for Tennessee, it's defense, and that's kind of how it would be because they won the regular season outright. But it's also the last game of the season, last game the guys are going to play in Tennessee. A lot of those angles, like, oh, Kentucky needs it more, is those angles I like fading because even if we need it more, Tennessee's also unsure if they're getting a 1 seed because of that awful non-conference run where they lost to Purdue, Kansas, and North Carolina, who all are great teams. But, I mean, it's a situation where I think Tennessee wants to secure a 1 seed and play good in the front of their home court on senior night. So I'm not going to bet Kentucky. Now, the question is how much is too much to lean because Kentucky, when they look hot, they look like they can beat anybody, but they can't keep it up. Tennessee has the defense. If you look on Haslametrics, Tennessee's got all the matchup advantages, and they do against most teams, don't get me wrong, but Kentucky doesn't have one green spot on their team on offense against their defense. Kentucky, if you look at how they're number 1 in 3-point percentage, Tennessee's number 10 in defending it. So it's not like a big enough difference there between 1 and 10 to make it flash green. It is a situation where Tennessee could just lay one on this team. But I think Kentucky's just going to keep running and running and running and running. They'll be down by 20, down by 30, running and running and running and running, where this number is just going to force itself over. So,
if you look at the numbers of like the last 4, just look at the last 4 games with Kentucky, they scored 117, 91, 111, and 93. But let's put that aside because Tennessee plays a little better defense than all 4 of those teams. But they also allowed 95, 89, 102, and 77. So they needed to score a lot of points in those games in order to win them. And I think if you want to play that Russian roulette, we'll just put up more points than our opponent. You want to play that with Tennessee, it's definitely going to fly over.
Yeah, I'm serious. It's a situation where I can see Kentucky's motivation. And I can see Tennessee's offensive motivation. I hope their defense lets down a little bit and lets them run. They played a tough defensive road game there. So it only shows over for me. It's not like a championship on the line, but it's a game where it feels a little bit more showman style, being that Tennessee doesn't need it. Kentucky can use it. It's an away game for Kentucky. Let's look at the over for sure. And you know what? Sometimes you can't be scared of those big numbers. Sometimes the big numbers and the small numbers are the best to go over and under. And that's what they are there for a reason. All right, let's move on to another game. I actually picked that one too. So we were on the same thoughts here. North Carolina versus Duke is another one that we both want to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, let's talk about that one, and then I'm going to make my tea time.
-3.5, total 155. One of the best games of the weekend. These are the only 2 teams from the ACC that I'm really giving credence to. Now, I know Clemson's going to get in, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I faded on them a little bit. I lost betting Duke that first game. It's just everything was going for UNC. Duke's improved some since that loss, all the way up to being ranked where UNC is. I don't know. I think -3.5. I would lean North Carolina at that line. I just think North Carolina has to try to prove that they're the better team, and maybe they'll lose by 1 or 2. If you like Duke, you might bet the money line in this one. But
I would only bet the money line. I would only bet the money line. If it's 3.5 or 4 points, I'm, plus in the first game, North Carolina was -5. And now you got a line flip of almost 8.5 points against two teams that are basically even. Now you got to look at that number. And the total in the first game was 152, and they scored 177.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, Tony.
Yeah,
155 ain't big enough.
Yeah,
This always goes over. This final game with North Carolina and Duke, they always go over. And I think the ACC is just so bad on offense this year that it's shaving the fact that these teams actually play faster because they're running the clock out at the end to make it look like they play less possessions. But the truth is they play more possessions. And this should get into the 160s or higher than that. I like the over in this game more than anything, but you're right about only taking the money line. And what's up, Methologist?
Yeah,
saying hi to
I thought that was bracketologist. I thought that was Lenardi a minute when I first saw it. But
well, he's a methologist to the bracketologist, so we'll think of it.
There
like
you
that.
go. Hey, buddy, thanks for tuning in. The one thing I thought that I'm gonna this opening number. You take a look at Duke and North Carolina. We're talking about over in this game. And I think it might be a shootout. You're going to see a favorable number. We're no doubt because North Carolina is on 4 straight unders and Duke is 8-1 their last 9 games to the under. So the odds makers are going to over adjust that a little bit. I think it's a goddamn shootout. I do. I think honestly, I think North Carolina is a better team.
Yep, I agree with you. How much time you got left?
5 minutes.
All right, let's quick hit this one. Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss will be a pick'em, total 145. So this is one of those situations where I think that it's a spot play. And it's funny. This is going to be close to pick'em, and everyone likes Texas A&M this year, but Ole Miss, they started out and didn't lose the whole month of December or November. They were playing a bunch of tomato cans, and they got boat raced as soon as they started against Tennessee. And they didn't do that well in the SEC. And we knew they were overrated, or at least according to their record. But what's funny about this is that Texas A&M's out too. They're not on anybody's bubble this year. This game, beating Ole Miss on the road, is not going to help them whatsoever. Okay? Texas A&M is injured too. They might still be without forward Henry Coleman, who is a rebounding beast. And that's the reason why they're in games is because of their offensive rebounding. I don't know if he plays or not. And they're more of a defensive mind in general, but they've had to play faster just to try to catch up to teams. But, man, I think this is the spot to play Ole Miss and Chris Beard's team. I think Chris Beard has been not what we thought this year. Definitely a disappointment, especially for Rebel fans. But, hey, when Ole Miss lost Matthew Murrell to sickness early in that game against Georgia, I knew Georgia was going to win that. I personally bet it. I think that here on senior night at a pick'em price, this is the good place that Ole Miss says, you know what, we started out great. Texas A&M is a very beatable team because Texas A&M can't shoot the ball. They're just another one of those teams that struggle shooting the ball. They had a really rough SEC schedule, but motivation-wise, I just don't see them showing up on this game. They're 51st on KenPom. They were a lot higher last year. 360th in three-point percentage, 351st in effective field goal percentage. You have to score points to win this game.
Yeah,
I know. I don't care how good your defense is. Ole Miss wins this game.
That's the best bet on the show. That's the best bet on the show. I like Ole Miss there. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to have a multi-game card on Saturday. And obviously, if you're watching this show and you pick up my action over at DocSports.com, Ole Miss is going to be on the card. I had that one circled. You kind of spoiled it. I didn't know you were coming up with this. But yeah, I think Texas A&M on the road is – I love fading teams that can't hit a bull in the ass and a handful of rocks shooting the ball on the road, especially against a good basketball team, especially against a 20-win team. The only people that got worse shooters than Texas A&M's Virginia. How the hell Virginia has 21 wins this year with that offense dumbfounds me. They're and I know we've got to wrap this up here. There's a team you're going to want to fade in the ACC tournament.
Yeah. Hopefully, Virginia, fade them immediately. I might not have a chance to fade them in the NCAA tournament. And you wonder if they're going to play the NIT. I think with a coach like Bennett, he will, but yeah, hopefully there's more times to fade them. But what someone should never do is,
as I said, ACC tournament. Fade them in the
yes,
ACC
I did. I know.
tournament. They're not even going to,
Yep.
if they advance, it would, I mean, I don't know how I don't care. You have to evolve. You know, you cannot just play good. I had a rant on this in my free play video. I put free play videos up on YouTube. I'm sure you watch them every day. Then tell me, of course, Kiev. But, you know, I put them up over there. But I had a rant about this the other day. I go, how can you have a famous head coach. You've won multiple national titles. You're a perennial top 20 team. And you can't recruit a freaking shooter? You can't get someone in there that can shoot the goddamn basketball? You can't just play good defense and score 55 points a game and win in today's game. It's like playing good defense and running the football and throwing the football only 15 times a game in college football nowadays. That don't work no more. That worked back in 1970, maybe the early 80s. That's why Nebraska was successful. But
this is a school with the deepest pockets that has failed on the football side, as well as the basketball side.
Dumbfounding.
It's unreal, man. But what's not unreal is Tony George over at Doc Sports, my man. Really appreciate you coming on. I know you got a tea time here, so you can tell us where you can get your great information and plays for the weekend.
Yeah, get over to docsports.com. I'm over there. Obviously, Kiev and I are both friends with the owner. It's a stand-up joint. They got a profit guarantee. Been around 52 years. I'm on YouTube every day. Just stick in the search bar on YouTube, Doc Sports. We've got myself and a bunch of other guys doing videos, and I have a podcast I've started to launch on StreamYard, which I got to have Kiev on. I mean, I got to get some high-powered stars on that son of a bitch. You're one of them, buddy. So
I'll be having that.
I'll be having Kiev on there as well. But that's on my Twitter at TGeorgeSports twice a week live, and then it's archived there on Tuesdays and Fridays. So all kinds of ways to get all kinds of free stuff out of me and never have to spend a penny.
Look at that.
Told you
how to beat the system.
Yeah, bringing 32 years of experience into the tournament this year, and so if you want to get a little March Madness package, I'd appreciate it. And my only goal is to win me money, and if I'm winning money, you know you're winning money. That's right. And I'm sure Kev feels the same way. And I played some blackjack with the guy, so he's greedy. I know he likes to win. I know when he knows when to walk away too. And I don't. But we'll just leave that story for
a few more hands, my friend. Well, anyways, yeah, make sure you check out Tony and recap. I'm going to be on USC in the over. Tony likes the over as well. Duke, North Carolina over. Definitely Ole Miss, and I let Tony's cat out of the bag on that one, but that's okay. And possibly Houston if the spread is low enough. I think we both kind of agree on that. So thanks a lot, Tony. We'll be texting through the weekend.
You bet, buddy. Thanks for having me.